Hi guys, this is Jessica and this is Kevin, and together we are the Healing Hands duo. We said we were going to do this video a month after we initially recorded the first one, which was the holistic dentistry video, and I will link that on the screen somewhere above so that you can go ahead and check that one out first, because that will be part one. This will be part two. We are going to try to wrap this up into another video. However, there's a lot of information to cover here, so it is a possibility that this will go into a third video, but hopefully that's not the case. Anyway, let's take this right over to Kevin, because I have him sitting with us today. If you wanted to say hi to our viewers.
Hello.
And we're just going to ask him by starting off with the very first question. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this, but it has been a full year since the last video. So Kevin, how are you feeling now that you've had your last dental procedure done? Let's touch base on some of the things that you had mentioned in your last video about something called epididymitis, and you didn't mention this, but Kevin was actually struggling with a hernia as well that somehow was related to potentially these dental procedures that he's had done. Can you touch base on that a little bit?
It's been a little over a year now since we've done the last interview, and a lot's changed since the last time we've talked. I was in the middle of getting an implant removed, and that's kind of where I was. I was not at my best the last video, but anyway, so I have had it removed, and I've just kind of replaced it with just a partial here right now. I feel great. You know, so much has changed. Before I actually had this implant removed, though, I was experiencing some issues. One of them, I started to have what was called an epididymitis infection. This was starting to surface itself. So this was maybe about 2 months before I actually decided to get this implant removed.
Okay, let's just, just to say, like, you put the implant in, how long was it that you had the implant in before you decided to have it removed?
Well, I had it in for probably about 9 months.
Okay.
You're only supposed to have it in for maybe 6 months before you put a cap on it.
Okay.
But ever since I had it put in, and even from 9 months until then, it was painful. You know, if I would touch it and wiggle it, it would just be so painful.
Okay, so...
And, you know, the dentist always had some excuses. You know, it's your bite's off. You know, when you're biting, you're chewing, the teeth down below are clamping up to the implant above, and it's loosening it.
Okay.
So this is why it hasn't settled yet. So, okay, I did that. I got a mouth guard to put in place to kind of keep it from doing that. And
right.
I wore that for several months, and it didn't seem to help. So it was just always painful.
Right.
So as all that was happening, though, I noticed that I was starting to get some sensations, some weird tingling, kind of stabbing sensations down in my groin.
All right.
Kind of just above my left testicle area. That whole groin area was starting to bother me. And you know, it wasn't anything significant at first. It was just a little bit, you know, kind of a stabbing pain. But
this was only after the implant,
yes,
correct? Okay.
After the implant, this is when this started.
Okay.
And it was on my way home one day from work that I was just driving along, and I just happened to, I think I coughed or I sneezed, I'm not sure what I did.
Yeah.
And then I noticed something kind of bulge out of my groin down here.
Right.
It kind of just popped out. So that was kind of concerning, so I decided to, you know, I drove home right away and kind of went inside and kind of took, you know, my pants down to kind of see what the heck was going on over there. And I noticed that my intestines were kind of protruding out of my groin.
Right.
So
you saw like a clear lump, yeah. A clear lump happening in the pubic area, basically.
Yeah. So I knew right away I gave myself a hernia.
Right.
Well, it must have been. So I kind of started with this kind of stabbing sensation, pain, and all this other stuff going on down here, and then I gave myself a hernia. So, you know, I talked to you right away, and then I think maybe the next day or the day after, we decided to go down to the Schuldeis Clinic.
And for anybody that doesn't know what the Schuldeis Clinic is, it's just a world-renowned clinic that does only hernia repairs. We decided not to go to a regular hospital for various different reasons. So we thought, you know what, let's not waste our time, let's go to the best of the best, and that's where we ended up at the Schuldeis, like probably 3 days later, I would say it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 3 days later, yeah. So they admitted me right in, I got to see a doctor right away, and yeah, it took about a half an hour, 45 minutes, and they did all the tests they needed to do, and it was an inguinal hernia.
Right.
That's what it was. Nothing major. It was just a minor one, but it was a hernia.
Right.
So, kind of shocked, and I really didn't know what to do, but I decided to book an appointment. They said I needed to come in for surgery.
Right.
It wasn't anything critical, like I said, but it's something that needed to be done. So I booked the surgery for several months later, and I ended up leaving there and just kind of, I monitored it a little bit. But as the days went on, I noticed down closer, right next to my left testicle, all the tubes that leave your testicle, kind of what carries the sperm out of the testicle.
Right.
All those tubes coming out of the testicle were all swollen.
Okay.
They're probably like 10 times the size.
And was it something that more so that you could feel internally, or could you actually see the swelling happening in the testicle, or can you? Oh, you could actually see
the whole
it.
area was just swollen, and it was physically swollen, and it was just starting to become painful, and it was just a mess. And then I had the hernia going on above it, so I started to feel in around the hernia area, and I noticed that basically all the lymph nodes that were surrounded that hernia, they were swollen.
Right. Oh, and you also started to develop a rash at this point, where the lymph node was all swollen. So I can actually insert. I think I can insert a picture here if I have it. I'll try and look for that.
Yeah. So there's a rash there as well. So I knew something wasn't right. Yes, there was a hernia. I agree with that, but there was more going on there.
Right.
So I was very hesitant on kind of cutting myself open. So I decided to kind of look a little further into this, and that's kind of where I made some of the connections on. I had some dental work done, and then afterwards I noticed that I started having some issues down here, and then I gave myself a hernia, and then all of a sudden I'm a mess.
Right.
So I'm thinking, is it connected? I don't know. If I tried to talk to any doctor about this, they would look at me like I'm crazy. So I didn't even bother doing that. I just kind of trusted what I thought and just kind of kept moving forward with it, and started to do my own research on it. Started to take some different medicines and different things to see if I can keep the infection down. And it still didn't go away.
Right.
So it just kept getting worse. The bulge was getting bigger, the whole testicle area was getting more swollen, it was getting painful. It even got so painful at times to where I couldn't even walk. I kind of had to throw myself on the couch and kind of put myself in the fetal position because it was so painful.
Right.
So I decided then I probably should go through and do the surgery. So I took some time off work and
booked the surgery,
and then...
and that day was horrible because I woke up with this god-awful feeling like we shouldn't be doing this, and so did you. And we drove over there to the hospital anyway and decided to go through with it until we got there pretty much. And
yeah, I got up that morning, I didn't feel good. I just had this sickness to my stomach, like, you shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
Whatever, I packed up, I went and I loaded myself in the car and went over to the hospital, checked myself in, or at least attempted to check myself in.
Right.
And as I was doing that, I got a chance to see the doctor again, and he comes over with this marker, and he starts markering my whole groin up on where he's going to cut me open, and it was about this long. It was pretty significant. And as all that was taking place, I just said to the doctor, just give me a minute. I don't, I'm not 100% sure I want to go through with this. I need some time to just think about this. And he kind of looked at me with this kind of interesting look on his face, like, what do you mean it's a hernia? It's not a big deal.
It's a hernia, it's not a big deal, right? Because people go through surgeries all the time thinking they're not a big deal, but they are, really. But
so I went out and I talked to you, and we had a little chat about it, and I think we were both on the same page there that this wasn't the right idea. There was something else going on, especially with my testicles all swelling up and lymph nodes that were swollen all around that area, and even the surgeons didn't seem to really care about that. Yeah,
which is ridiculous because having a surgery when you have swollen lymph nodes around it, it's quite probable to cut into those lymph nodes and damage them forever, or lymph nodes get swollen for a reason. They're harboring some type of infection in order to not have that spread throughout the body. So,
and you did mention too that there is possibility that where that hernia was and what he was going to cut, that I could lose my left testicle, that it wouldn't function. Right. He's like, don't worry about it, you have 2 of them.
Yeah, you have 2, so that's fine. Don't worry, you don't need the other one. Yeah. I know. We don't have children either, so that was kind of a big deal for us. So
whatever the case, I decided I'm not going through with this right now. So I packed up and we left.
Right.
And that's where I started doing a little more research into the dental, and if there's any issues going on there. That's where, in this last video you saw some of those tooth meridian charts. Kind of show the different connections on your teeth,
very
parts.
Just
so happens that this one tooth is directly connected to this epididymis area.
Right.
So is that a coincidence? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody would listen to me. Nobody would say, you know, Kevin, you're okay. What you're doing makes sense, right? Like, this is totally unheard of here.
Although we did have a holistic dentist who agreed to take out the implant, and he was very open to the idea of looking at these meridian charts because he said he just hadn't heard of it before. So it's not like it's not like these doctors intentionally are doing this to be malicious. Some of them are just not aware of the information that's out there.
Yeah. So that was a year ago, and it's been a year later now, and I'm doing much better. You know, the whole area down here, the swelling has gone down significantly. Right. The hernia is still protruding itself. Yeah. The doctors say there's nothing I can do about that. A hernia can't be fixed. The only way it can be fixed is you cut yourself open. That's the only way. So I'm again not so I'm a little skeptical of that, and I'm just trying to get the infection kind of cleared up here, and it's starting to take care of itself. And once that goes away, I might start to see if I can work on that area to try and fix this hernia. So I think it can be fixed. Yeah, it's been done. If you go on the internet, people have done it before. So, and I'm not one to really go through surgery if I don't have to. So I'm going to take these steps, and we'll give some updates as we go along. So, but as of right now, I feel great. Fantastic.
Absolutely. Okay, perfect. So with that said, I'm just going to go on to the next question. In the initial video, I can't believe we didn't even talk about this, but there was kind of a reason why we got into all of this in the first place, and one of those reasons was because you had a root canal that went really sour, and you had an issue that happened with your cavitations. Can you discuss those two things in particularly, and how we kind of discovered them, and what steps we took to trying to relieve those issues?
Yeah, so I've had 5 root canals in total. One of them in particular, this back molar tooth. I was chewing one day and I cracked the tooth, and sure enough, I go to the dentist. You got to have a root canal. So I fell for it and I did it. Right. Sure enough, at that time, I didn't know this until I actually went through some of the imaging. The last video you've seen the cavitat scan that I've done. Right. This can show you everything. It's amazing what this can show you, and I found some things in that. And one thing I found was when they did this root canal here, the filler material that they put into the root, they kind of take all your root away, and then they fill it with this like waxy material called gutta percha. And when they filled that into my tooth, what they did actually was they blown past the tooth, and kind of all the gutta percha waxy material flew up into my sinus area, which is right in here where I'm showing you right now. Right. So this whole area was kind of saturated with this waxy toxic, whether it's toxic or not, I don't know, but that's what I was dealing with. And I didn't really know. I didn't really feel anything, but I had some issues with my sinuses and whatnot too. I was
at the time you didn't. Let's clarify. At the time it happened, you didn't really feel anything, but it over time became a major issue for you with your sinus, and talk about that, like with your sinus, what was happening with your sinus in your eye and things like that. Yeah, this area here where they filled this area up with this gutta percha material. I mean, my left eye, this is the left eye I was having problems with too. This is the one I was going blind in. Right. And whether it has any connection to that or not. Because they say, of course, it doesn't.
I don't know, right? But it happened, and it's there, and I needed to deal with that. So what I did is I actually found a surgeon that decided he was going to help me and kind of go in there and pull that root canal out and attempt to try and get all that material out. Which we had done at a hospital, mind you. That was the second time.
Oh, okay, so sorry.
It was just in a maxillofacial surgeon.
Sorry, maxillofacial surgeon. Sorry.
In the city here, and he decided to, he pulled the root canal out, and it was a root canal. It did not come out easy. It came out in pieces. Right. So he literally sat there with a chisel and a hammer, chiseling away at my face. Right. And I remember that. I remember when he got the tooth out and he was up and in there, and he had this little magnifying scope on his head like this. He was in there trying to find that little piece of waxy material.
And just for those that are wondering how Kevin knows what he was doing, just know that he doesn't like to go through anesthesia because he doesn't believe in that. So he decided to do these facial surgeries awake, under just a lot of...
just a bit of freezing. So I was awake while they were up in my sinuses and doing all kinds of crazy
things.
Which
nobody does this.
It was okay at the time, but the recovery, I'll tell you, it was pretty intense. Pretty intense. But yes. So I remember the surgeon doing that, I can remember him with this little scope on his head that he was in there trying to, weave his way around to try and find that little piece. And I remember him saying, "Oh, I got it."
Mm-hmm.
So he was all excited, and he thought the whole thing was a success. So he ended up stitching me back up, and then I went home, and that was basically it. So I figured it was good. And the recovery wasn't so easy with that, especially if you've ever had your sinus cut open before. It's not anything pleasant. That was probably one of the worst experiences I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
But I did that, and then I did another follow-up scan not long after. And when I did that, what I found was he didn't get it all.
No.
So there was still another piece that was up here. So what do you do? I didn't feel good about that. I didn't want any of this.
You wanted it out of your face. It was something. It was a foreign object buried in your sinus. You wanted it out of your face. So
I wanted it out, and no dentist would go in there and just try and pull that out.
They
because the
wouldn't.
tooth is gone.
Yeah.
Nobody would do it.
No.
So this is
and the other issue with that was that where this piece was stuck in his sinus was that it was surrounded by a lot of facial nerves. So there was a great possibility that if we went back in, tried to take it out again, or the third time, that we could cut a nerve and he could develop, that you could be struggling with facial paralysis is one of the issues why a lot of people wouldn't do it. But of course, we're very persistent and decided to push forward.
I found another surgeon downtown Toronto. He's one of the top oral surgeons in Canada.
Which was funny. We did it
name.
at the hospital. We actually went to the hospital in Toronto to have this second surgery done.
Yeah, so I told him what I was dealing with, and I asked him for his help, and I said, I understand if you don't, because nobody else really wants to do the surgery, and he's like, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
So he offered. I made an appointment, we went, and this time he put me to sleep.
Yes.
Because he was going up there and a little bit deeper, and considering the first time, I thought, okay, I just don't want to be away from this.
Yeah.
So he did that, and I remember, I don't remember anything because I was sleeping, but I remember waking up, and he's like, "Kevin, I think I got it."
Yeah.
He says, "I think I got it."
Yes, I remember
Didn't
that.
really get.
I remember him telling me that coming outside of after the surgery, he said the same thing.
It didn't give me a really warm, fuzzy feeling after, especially when he said it to me. It was like, it wasn't a confident I got it. It was kind of a, I think I got it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, did I just go through all this for nothing? And anyway, I went home and went through the recovery process, and I did another scan.
Yeah.
The piece, not only was it still there, but it was on the opposite side.
So it was
buried deeper.
Deeper and further.
Deeper.
Yes.
So that was it. I said I'm done.
Yeah.
And
so at this point, we've given up on trying to actually go in and try to take this piece out. We are trying to work around any damage that it's caused and any inflammation that it does still currently causes you issues in your sinus. He has nosebleeds sometimes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So just basically the reason why we wanted to say that story was that people think they're going in for basic, root canal procedures or things like, having your wisdom teeth removed. And you could potentially go through these things. I'm not saying that they're common or that they happen to everyone, but they do happen. I don't think they're talked about enough. And I think it's very important to mention that to people that, for something as a root canal that you could have the tooth pulled and not keep it inside your face, there is a possibility that you can damage your sinus or have problems with your eye or, various different issues. We weren't as lucky to remove the piece, but you still have seen major improvements since we have gotten some of the gutta percha out. Not all of it was removed, but we did get a big chunk of it out.
Yeah, I still get some strange sensations and piercing kind of nerve it's almost like it feels like it's nerve pain in this area. I don't know. But
right.
It's whatever it is
it's hearsay.
It's done, and there's nothing I'm going to do.
At this point, it would just be more dangerous to go in and try and take it out. This would be the third or fourth surgery, and to try and.
But the other thing that scan showed too was the wisdom extraction areas.
Right.
Here.
Oh yeah. Sorry, we didn't even touch base on that yet. Okay.
I've had my wisdom teeth out when I was 18. Only the uppers. I didn't have any lowers.
Actually, I think you took them out when you were 19. You said
something like
18 or 19. Yeah.
And when I did this scan, actually what it showed is, I think it was my right side, right where my wisdom teeth were.
It was that side, yes.
A cyst growing right in that cavity.
Right.
Probably the size of maybe, I don't know, a dime, something
Right.
like that. It was
In the
big.
cavity, which he means the cavitat. A cavitat is kind of like an area of infected bone, which is kind of like a hole in the bone, correct?
Yeah.
So it's like
Cavitation,
the cavitation. So there was a cyst actually growing in this bone that had never healed over.
Yeah.
And
yeah, so I found somebody to help me with that as well, and we've kind of opened up both areas here, and we kind of cleaned out the one side on the one side, and then went on to the other side where the cyst was. And yeah, it was pretty simple, pretty straightforward procedure to remove it, but once he opened up that area, I can remember there was, I think, 3 dentists present, and one of the assisting dentists, when they opened up that site, I can remember saying, I've never seen anything like that in my life.